So today what I'm going to be talking about is the relationship between mainstream porn images and child sexual abuse materials, and to see how the two intersect. I do want to give a warning here that we are dealing with pornography, sexual assault, hypersexualized language, and please view at your own discretion. If you feel like this is too much, please feel free to leave or to just take a break. Now, to understand mainstream pornography and its ways in which young-looking performers are so sought after by consumers, we have to sort of take a deep dive into what is pornography today and what happened. So pornography in 2000, when it basically cannibalized the internet and became a third of all downloads, traffic, searches, it made pornography affordable, accessible, and anonymous, the three major drivers of demand. So just to give you a sense of the size of this industry, porn sites get more visitors each month than Netflix, Amazon, and Twitter combined. This is not some small underground industry. This is an industry that is the largest above ground industry that has virtually no regulation whatsoever. We're just beginning to see, as Mandy mentioned, some age verification legislation, but it's the equivalent of absolutely having no legislation for other predatory industries like the tobacco industry or the alcohol industry. Could you imagine if we had no such legislation? They'd be handing out Marlboro cigarettes in middle school. So it just, and this is not even handing it out in school, this is handing it out in bedrooms. So we have to realize the ways in which this is now the wallpaper of kids' lives. So just to give you some stats from the US, 40 million Americans are regular visitors to porn sites. 25% search engine requests are porn related. 35% of all downloads are pornographic. And the average age of internet first exposure is 9 to 11. Although when we go out and lecture, we often hear ages as young as 7 or 9. So just to give you also a more sense, there's 47 billion visits in 2021, which is the last year we have any data from, because they're so submerged in lawsuits now. Pornhub is not releasing new data. 130 million daily visitors, 962 searches a second, and nearly 5 million new videos. Now, if you go onto any of the porn sites, and I'm using Pornhub here because it's kind of the edgy, branded porn site. If you go on there and you live to be 1,000, you won't get to see even a tiny percentage of any of the all the product up there, but there's never enough pornography. And I'm going to discuss later why there's never enough pornography, but there is a constant ongoing flood of new videos. So what do we know about the content? Well, Anna Bridges and her team did a study about on adult video news, and what they found, which is basically the one of the news sites for pornography, that of the 304 scenes analysed, 90% contained at least one aggressive act of both physical and aggression were combined. Now, I want to say, from somebody who spends way too much time on pornography, I don't think I've ever seen any act that does not end in violence, or any scene that does not have violence against women in them. So this is standard violence against women, and the more that you actually, the more violence you have, the more you degrade her, the more you debase her, the more likely you are to add sizzle to the porn industry. That's what porn is. The more you degrade, the better the pornography. So what are the acts that both that children and boys and men see? So the number one act is gagging. This is where the penis is so far down the throat that she begins to gag and she can't breathe. And as she's pushing him away, he actually grabs her head and pushes her more forward. He is stoic. He has absolutely no expression on his face. So is he a sociopath? I don't know. Okay, we don't know because we need to do empirical research on the men in pornography, but he's acting like a sociopath. So I want you to think of all the young boys who are mirroring what is basically sociopathic behavior, where you're causing harm and you're not showing any emotion whatsoever. Another major sex act is strangulation, and a recent study asked incoming first-year students at a university about their last sexual experience, and what they found was 1 in 3 had been strangled during the last sexual experience. Now, strangled is different to gagging. It's arms around the throat. It can cause immediate death through heart attacks, through stroke. It can cause long-term brain damage. It is one of the most dangerous acts you can do to any human being. Also, we know that women who are strangled during sex by their batterer are actually more likely to die at the hands of the batterer. Rough anal sex, pounding anal sex, to the point that often one of the problems is that the women in pornography only last about 3 months because literally their anuses drop out of their body. Ejaculation, spitting on the face, hair pulling and spanking. So your standard porn scene is 1 woman or 2 women being orally, anally, vaginally penetrated, being called every imaginable name from whore, bitch, cum dumpster, being spat upon, being hit, having her hair pulled, and then eventually ejaculation over the face, and increasingly in the eye, to the point that there is now an antibiotic resistant strain of gonorrhea of the eye going around the porn industry. Now, I want to talk about this comment in 2003. This was 2003, 3 years, just 3 years after the porn industry cannibalized the internet. So this was 20 years ago. Jules Jordan, who is a hardcore pornographer, said, one of the things about today's porn and the extreme market, the gonzo market, that's what they used to call it, is so many fans want to see so much more extreme stuff. So the question becomes, what is more extreme? And the answer to this partly is children. So every image you've got here is from Pornhub or Xporn or YouTube. I don't go near that which is classed as child pornography, although there very well might be on Pornhub. We know that there's cases against them for having images of minors. Notice, by the way, the Disney characters. Notice how young she looks. Notice her small body, hair, bobby socks. So this is clearly meant to look like a child. Now, on mainstream porn sites, images of youthful-looking women are never called child pornography. In fact, if you go onto any of the sites and you put in child pornography, you immediately get a warning that it's illegal. However, there's ways around this. So let's just have a look at how popular young-looking females are. So the top site is amateur at 305,000 videos. So that looks like it's the #1 site. And by the way, amateur is not amateur. It's not by amateurs. It's normally done by that segment of the porn industry that makes it look amateur. However, if you go into teen porn, solo porn, step or daddy or babysitter or teacher or stepdad, you've got anything from 263,000 videos right down to 5,000. And if you add all of these up, you see that the most popular sites, categories on Pornhub and on all the other sites is anything that carries young-looking females. Now, question, are these young-looking porn performers over 18? And the answer is we don't know. Why? Because there's almost no monitoring of any of the ages. A number of reasons for this is the Ashcroft versus the Free Speech Coalition of 2002, where they basically argued, the Free Speech Coalition is the lobbying arm of the porn industry, where it actually said there that you can use women who look under 18. Then you have another 2257, which is another law, which is a record keeping of age performers. All you had to do here in this law was to say that was to keep an actual document to say that the woman or whoever the man was 18 or over. The Free Speech Coalition said it was too burdensome. Now, I was an expert witness for the Department of Justice in 2013, and it was upheld by the judge. And then the same judge bizarrely defined it in 2021 using some obscure law. And now, if you are a secondary producer, i.e. the distributor, then the chances of the FBI or anyone coming after you for having underage kids is quite low. So question, does the user know if these young-looking porn performers are over 18? And the answer is, we don't know again. But the role of childified images of mainstream porn sites is to construct a reality for the user that he is indeed masturbating to images of real child sexual abuse. So whether they're 18 or not is secondary to the narrative that the porn industry constructs to show that in fact she's a child. So let's have a look at the content analysis of images of young-looking female performers. And for this, I'm taking Tony Crone's typology. And he did a typology on child sexual abuse materials. And there was 5 parts of the typology. And what you see is number 2, solo masturbation by a child. Number 4, penetrative sexual activity between a child and an adult. And number 5, sadism or bestiality, are found on mainstream porn sites. So I'm going to look at number 2, number 4, and number 5 on Pornhub, X-Porn, all the others. So let's look at first solo teen. So remember, this solo masturbation by a child is what Tony Crone said, and they even have sites called Solo Teen Babe, Sexy Girl Solo, Solo Cuties, Solo Teen Girls. So we have the solo in it, so they can see that this is a single girl. The difference is the female porn performers are small-breasted, she's slightly built, and she's free of makeup. She looks nothing like the other women at all in the porn industry. She's not got the large breasts, she hasn't got the makeup, and they use words to describe her like tiny, small, petite, and tight. So they're really creating this narrative that these girls, women, girls, whatever they are, because we don't know, do not look like the rest of the women in pornography. Instead of being referred to as whores, which is how most of the women in pornography are, or bitches or cum dumpsters, they use words like sweeties, little darlings, cutie pies, honeys. Again, you never, ever see words like women referred to, or underage girls, if they are referred to like that on mainstream porn sites. So there's no men in these scenes of solo girls. Instead, there is a male voice off camera. It's heard gently coaching her on how to masturbate, a way to give the user a get-out-of-jail-free card. Her voiceover and text, the voiceover on these, and the text promises that this is her first time on camera. And when I was writing Pornland and actually went into some of the discussion boards, what I found was that there was a lot of rage on the part of porn users if it had first time ever on camera and they recognized her from other scenes. And they would say, you know, I spent money on this, I've wasted my money, this is not first time, I saw this whore on this, etc. So the question is why? Why were they so enraged? And my answer to that would be that the user wants to be present at the very moment she's slutified, at the moment she's turned over from a civilian to a porn performer, to the moment she becomes, quote, a slut in the eyes of the porn viewer. So also what we see in these terms is the key concept of innocent. Innocent cutie, innocent dream, innocent love. And when I interviewed 8 men in prison who were all in for downloading child pornography and also for then going on to rape a child, and the average age and the average span was 6 months to a year between viewing CSAM and then raping a child, was one guy said, I wanted something innocent, not a dirty whore. So you can see the way in which they're looking for niche markets all the time, something that looks a bit different. So let me give you an example of what they have for the text. This little cutie started to take off her clothes, but we could tell she was nervous and blushed. So that's the idea that she's new to all of this. But showing off her pussy proved to be too much of a turn on. And when we encouraged her to play with it, she could not resist. This beautiful teen girl really did have her first time on camera, and we got to watch. So you can see that it's so important that she's new to this, brand new. The key theme in social solo masturbation is that her eagerness is a sign of her culpability, and that simultaneously divests the user of his culpability in masturbating to what in reality would be a child being groomed by an adult male. So once again, it's a get out of jail free card. Number 4 was penetrative activity between adults and children. The key theme here is the user gets to witness the loss of her virginity with an older, kindly mentor. You don't see older, kindly mentors anywhere else except when she's meant to be under 18 or she looks under 18. The titles to let you know that indeed she's losing her virginity are Bloody Virgins, First Time Sex, Real Virgins, Defloration, and Horny Virgins. These are the names of some of the actual, the actual videos that go with the text. So these go with the text, these go with the videos, these texts, letting you know that this is first time. Now, instead of the usual body punishing violent sex scenes, which is what you see throughout pornography, as I said, this has kissing, affection, gentle touching, and the male performer checking in to see if she's not feeling any pain, which again, anyone who's familiar with pornography knows they never do that. In fact, the more pain, the more they continue to create degradation and dehumanization. Pain is one of the key ways in which they really up the ante in regular pornography, not when it comes to looking at so-called minors. And again, we don't know if they're minors. The goal is to authenticate the consensual loss of her virginity so the user can feel he's not watching child rape. The female performers, again, are young looking, they're inexperienced, they need coaching. You don't need to coach any of the women in pornography, and they pretend to like it, but in a non-porn-like way. So in a porn-like way, they say, give it to me harder, give it to me stronger, give it to me more. Here, they don't say that. They just say, oh, I like this, I like it. When you can actually see on the face, they're not actors, right? They look in pain because many of them are losing their virginity on camera. Female performers described as young and innocent, yet as this is sadism, by the way, if you can't see. Female performers are described as young and innocent, yet are predicted as predatory and experienced. Sex acts are the usual body-punishing violence found in porn. The thrill. Because of her undeveloped body, the male porn performer does extra damage to her. So this is when we get into the sadism part of Tony Crone's typology. So let me just read some of this. This is the actual text that goes with, it's okay, she's my stepdaughter. These young stepdaughters may seem innocent, but don't let them fool you. As soon as mom leaves the house, stepdaddy's cock becomes the target, and the only thing that will calm the aching, throbbing, dripping pussy she's been playing with all day. These girls crave cock and will find any reason to get it from their new stepdads. So we do know that stepdads are a particular danger. And also, again, she's the one, she's the predator, not him, because she's been craving this all day and she waits till her mum leaves. Another example, Kerry is such a sweet young thing. You'd never believe she has the mind of a pervert. She looks so innocent and prude. But don't let her fool you. This little slut is a dirty whore. That's from tryteens.com. So you also see words like split, break, rupture, tear, and rip. And then one of the examples of another text is, this bitch won't be able to walk for a week after anal demolishing. So they really do show that they're causing her intense pain. The power differential between porn and between the male and the female is amplified in porn titles such as Old and Young Gangbang, Old Men Fucking, Young Sluts for Older Men, Fuck the Babysitter, Bang Babysitter, Drunk Babysitter. So just in case you miss the visuals on it and you miss the text, they're even giving you the actual titles. Now we know that children aged 6 to 12 compared to adults are disproportionately exposed to pornography sites, specializing in non-photographic content. Now that came out in 2022 of December. Almost a month later, what we saw from Pornhub stats was that hentai was the most searched term next to Japanese, which is actually often interchangeable. So hentai is your non-photographic content. So this is where kids are getting a lot of their porn is from hentai. It's the Japanese phase for sexual perversion. It's a pornified version of anime. It's colorful and action-packed animation. Cartoon characters for movies, television, gaming, likely to be familiar or appeal to children. And they typically look like children. And some of the images that Mandy showed, I'm going to show again. This is what it looks like. It's cartoon. And actually, because it's cartoon and animation, you can do anything you want to her because she can't, she's got no bodily limits. You can do what you want because of the lack of bodily limits of the cartoon. Adolescent boys are one of the major consumers of childified images. Why? They want to see a female who looks like a peer, and the industry is grooming boys to become predators. Now, what do we know about porn exposure and problematic sexual behaviors in boys? So there is a causal relationship, which is the gold standard in social science. Boys who intentionally sought out porn are 6 times more likely to self-report sexually aggressive behavior, more likely to want to try out what they'd seen, more likely to sexually harass, 3.3 times more likely to engage in problematic sexual behaviors. And now we go down another rabbit hole. Clinical experience and research evidence are now accumulating to suggest that the internet is not simply drawing attention to those with existing pedophilic interests, but is contributing to the crystallization of those interests in people with no explicit sexual interest in children. So what they're saying here, and it's mainly men, is that men who had no pedophilic interest get bored and then they go looking for something different, particularly going looking for children. And those men I interviewed in prison, all 8 of them, who were in for downloading child pornography and then raping a child, not one of them was a pedophile. So again, this is about non-pedophile men raping children, and it's very hard to wrap your head around. This expands the number of men who will rape children and the number of children who will be at risk of being raped. So what do we know from some of the anecdotal evidence that we have collected from child protection experts on child-to-child sexual abuse? The age of the perpetrator has gone from 14 to 18 and now is 11 to 15. The age of the victim was 8 to 11. It's now closer to 4 to 8. We're seeing porn-themed acts such as strangulation, biting, anal penetration, hair pulling, and name calling. So you're actually seeing the boys play out what they see in pornography. We're finding that the sexual abuse is increasingly violent and the boys are actually filming it. So they're filming their crime scene. Child perpetrators report seeing porn and wanting to try those acts out. And high school boys who are frequent users of porn are more likely to buy sex than those who are not. So this is also a driver of demand to trafficking. And you're never going to get rid of trafficking till we deal with the pornography problem. So anecdotal evidence on adult to child. Men report need harder, more novel porn, such as CSAM. A significant percentage are looking for boys, specifically torture of boys. Younger men are grooming their victims online. Older men are raping their grandchildren and kids around them because they're not tech savvy enough to use the internet to groom children. Wives of men tend to stay with them if they have not moved from viewing CSAM to actual hands-on abuse or child sexual abuse images, either one. Many of these men are in chat rooms and file sharing, and that's where they get their first exposure. Older men tend to try children, young men do it domestically on the internet. So this is what we have: desensitization, boredom, addiction. It goes to legal childified images, and it goes to CSAM. So you can see the ways in which mainstream pornography, with its a huge amount of product, is leading to the more childified images, solo child, the other ones I showed you, and then they're actually getting their feet wet with real CSAM. So we have to clean our toxic culture up. And we do it any which way, like Gulliver in Gulliver's Travels, any which way we can. So we can define porn as non-state torture, and you're not allowed to torture anybody. Hold porn sites financially accountable. Withdrawal of all credit card payment systems. The credit card systems are making a fortune of this. End to corporate social responsibility. There should be no way in which this industry is actually monitoring itself. It's again like the cigarette industry monitoring itself, and force age verification for production and consumption. So at Culture Reframed, what we do is we work to stop the emotional, behavioral, cultural and sexual harms of pornography. You can contact us through our website, and I want to stop sharing for a minute to say that we really don't have any choice but to do anything here. It has reached such a public health crisis for children that we have to basically adult up and do something. And I want to say something really important here. At some point, some young person in your life will say, "Where were you when this happened? What did you do?" And you've got two choices. You can shrug and say, "I did nothing," or you can say, I fought with everything I had. And if we say I fought and we turn it to we fought, you know what the last sentence will be? We won. Because the most important thing that our culture has is the next generation. That is our greatest resource. And we have to stop handing our kids over to the porn industry and tell the porn industry we've had enough. We are not going to allow this anymore. Thank you.